Elena Voss had lived her whole life as an Omega, the lowest rank in the Blackthorn Kingdom. Omegas were rarely noticed. They served, they worked, and they stayed quiet. Elena had accepted this fate long ago. She never imagined that her life would change forever on the night of the coronation. The great hall of Blackthorn Castle glowed with candlelight. Every pack member had gathered to see Dorian Blackthorn crowned as the new Alpha King. He stood tall on the platform, his dark eyes calm and commanding, his presence filling the room like a storm waiting to break. Everyone admired him. Everyone feared him a little too. Elena stood near the back, far from the nobles and warriors, holding a tray of drinks as part of her duties. She was not supposed to be noticed, but fate had other plans. As the priestess lifted her hands to complete the coronation blessing, a sharp burning sensation spread across Elena's wrist. She gasped and dropped the tray. Silver light shimmered beneath her skin, forming a mark she had never seen before, a crescent moon wrapped in flame. Gasps rippled through the hall. Dorian's hand flew to his own forearm, where a matching mark had rested hidden beneath his sleeve since childhood. His breath caught. His wolf, usually restless and dangerous, went completely still inside him, as if recognizing something long awaited. A mate. His mate. The court erupted into whispers. An Alpha King, mated to an Omega. It was almost unheard of. Some found it moving. Others saw it as scandal. Dorian said nothing. He simply stared at Elena from across the hall, his jaw tight, his eyes unreadable. Then, without a word, he turned and walked away, leaving her standing alone beneath the weight of hundreds of eyes. That same night, guards came to Elena's chamber. She was told to gather her things. She thought she was being punished for interrupting the ceremony. Instead, she was taken far from the castle, to a stone tower on the northern edge of the Blackthorn estate, surrounded by pine forests and silence. The tower was clean and warm, not a prison in the way she expected, but it was still a prison. The door was locked from the outside. Guards stood watch day and night. No one explained why she was there. No one told her when she could leave. Elena spent the first weeks in confusion and grief. She had done nothing wrong, yet she had been taken from everything she knew. She missed the noise of the kitchens, the friendly chatter of the other Omegas, the small joys of an ordinary life. Now she had only silence and 4 stone walls. She did not know that Dorian carried a secret far heavier than any crown. Since he was a boy, Dorian's wolf had been unstable. Most wolves settled with training, learning to work in harmony with their human minds. Dorian's wolf never fully calmed. Under stress, under anger, under deep emotion, it clawed for control, sometimes violently. His father, the previous Alpha King, had forced him through years of harsh discipline to hide this weakness from the kingdom. A king's wolf was supposed to be a symbol of strength. If the packs discovered that their king's wolf could not be trusted, rival kingdoms would see it as an opening to attack. His father's final warning echoed in Dorian's mind every day. A mate, especially one without rank or power, would only give enemies a weapon to use against him. Love him, threaten her, and watch him break. That was the danger his father feared most. So when Dorian felt the bond ignite in the hall, panic outweighed joy. He did not see a mate. He saw a threat to everything he had built to protect his throne, and worse, a threat to her own safety should anyone learn how to use her against him. He told himself locking her away was protection. He told himself it was temporary, until he could think of a better plan. But as the weeks passed, his excuses grew thinner, and though he never entered her tower during the day, at night, he often stood outside her door, listening to her quiet movements, feeling a strange calm settle over his usually restless wolf. For the first time in his life, his wolf was not clawing to break free. It was still, it was peaceful, it wanted to be near her. Dorian began visiting late at night, always in silence, always keeping distance, watching her from the shadows of the tower's small courtyard as she sat by the window, staring at the stars. He never announced himself. He told himself it was simply to make sure she was safe, but deep down, he knew he came because being near her was the only time his mind was quiet. Elena, of course, knew someone watched her sometimes. She caught glimpses of a tall figure near the tree line, always gone before she could call out. She wondered if it was Dorian, though she could not understand why a king who wanted nothing to do with her would come at all. Rumors spread through the kingdom about her disappearance. Some said she had been rejected for being too weak to be a proper Luna. Others whispered that the king found her unworthy and cast her aside in shame. The gossip reached even the isolated tower through the guards' quiet conversations, and each rumor cut into Elena's heart a little more. She began to believe she truly was something to be hidden, something not good enough to stand beside a king. Months passed this way, Elena trapped in loneliness, Dorian trapped in fear, both suffering quietly, and both unaware that the walls between them were built from misunderstanding rather than truth. Then came the threat that changed everything. The Ashgard Pack, longtime rivals of the Blackthorn Kingdom, learned of the hidden mate through a spy among the tower guards. To Ashgard's Alpha, this was an opportunity too valuable to ignore. If the king had truly hidden his mate away, it suggested weakness, perhaps even fear. And fear was something an enemy could exploit. The Ashgard emissaries arrived at Blackthorn Castle during the winter court gathering, when alphas from every allied pack had assembled to discuss trade and territory. In front of the entire court, the Ashgard leader stood and made his accusation. He claimed the Blackthorn King was unfit to rule, that he had hidden his own mate out of shame for a wolf, too unstable to be trusted, a wolf that even its own king could not control. He demanded proof, right there in the hall, that Dorian's bond was strong, and that his wolf could stand before others without breaking. The hall fell into stunned silence. Every pack leader turned to Dorian, waiting. For a moment, old fear rose inside him, the same fear his father had planted years ago. But something had shifted since that night in the coronation hall. Every night spent quietly outside Elena's tower, every moment of unexpected peace his wolf had found in her presence, had slowly proven his father wrong. His wolf was not calmed by hiding, it was calmed by her. Dorian made his decision in an instant. He would not hide anymore. He sent guards to bring Elena from the tower immediately. Word spread through the castle like wildfire. Elena, confused and afraid, was dressed quickly and brought into the grand hall, unsure of what awaited her. When she stepped through the doors and saw the crowded court, her heart pounded. Hundreds of eyes turned toward her, the same eyes that had watched her mark appear months before. Dorian walked to her, standing before the entire assembly, and did something he had never done in his life. He spoke the truth without hiding. He told them of his wolf's instability, a secret kept since childhood. He told them of his father's warning, and the fear that had driven him to lock away the one person meant to stand beside him. He admitted, in front of kings and alphas from every allied pack, that hiding Elena had been a mistake born of fear, not weakness in her, but weakness in himself, for believing love could only be a danger. Then he turned to Elena, his voice steady despite the vulnerability in his words. He told her that from the first night he watched her from the shadows, his wolf had found peace it had never known. He told her that the calm she gave him was not something to fear or hide, but something he should have protected from the very beginning, not by locking her away, but by standing beside her. Elena listened, tears gathering in her eyes, as months of confusion and pain finally began to make sense. She had thought herself unwanted. She had thought herself hidden out of shame. Instead, she had been feared for the wrong reasons, loved in silence by a man too afraid to say it aloud. The Ashgard Alpha sneered, unconvinced, demanding proof beyond words. He wanted to see if the unstable wolf would truly break under pressure, right there before the court. Dorian did not hesitate. He let go. For the first time since he was a boy, he allowed his wolf to rise freely, without restraint, without fear of losing control. The court watched as his form shifted, powerful and commanding, a presence that filled the hall with quiet authority rather than chaos. His wolf did not lash out. It did not break. It moved straight to Elena. Gently, deliberately, his wolf lowered its head before her, a gesture of devotion no one in the hall could question. Then, in a display that stunned every pack leader present, the completion of the mating bond took place right there, marked openly for all to witness. Light shimmered between them, the crescent flame mark on both their wrists glowing brightly in confirmation. There was no violence, no loss of control, only calm, only certainty. The Ashgard Alpha's accusations died in his throat. A king whose wolf answered so completely, so peacefully, to his mate, was no weak ruler to be challenged. If anything, the display proved the opposite of what Ashgard had hoped to expose. Rather than a flaw, the bond had become the clearest sign of the king's true strength. One by one, the allied alphas began to nod in quiet respect. Whispers of doubt turned into murmurs of admiration. The Ashgard emissaries, having lost their opportunity, withdrew from the hall in silence, their plan undone by the very truth they had hoped to weaponize. Dorian shifted back, breathing steadily, and turned to Elena once more. He knelt before her, an act no Alpha King had done for anyone in living memory. He asked for her forgiveness, not as a king asking a subject, but as a man, asking the person who had somehow tamed the storm inside him. Elena, overwhelmed but finally understanding everything, reached for his hand and helped him rise. She told him that she did not need grand gestures or apologies before the entire court. She only needed the truth, and now she finally had it. The court erupted, not in scandal this time, but in celebration. What had begun as a secret hidden in shame became a story told throughout the kingdom, of an Alpha King who found strength, not in hiding his weakness, but in facing it beside the one person who could calm it. In the months that followed, Elena was formally presented as Luna of the Blackthorn Kingdom. She did not forget the pain of the tower, nor did Dorian forget the guilt of putting her there, but together, they built something neither could have found alone. Elena, once dismissed as merely an Omega, became known throughout the allied packs as the one whose quiet strength had steadied a king's most dangerous secret. Dorian ruled differently after that day. He no longer carried his burdens alone, no longer believed that strength meant hiding pain behind locked doors. His wolf remained calm, not because it was suppressed, but because it had finally found the one thing it needed all along. And Elena, who once believed herself unworthy of notice, stood proudly beside her king, no longer hidden, no longer afraid, chosen openly before all.